To our tour today of Nanaimo's historic Old Quarter, and then down to the Commercial Street Night Market here in Nanaimo, and then finishing up at the beautiful harbor front in this city. I am glad you're here. Welcome. My name is Dan King. I live here on Vancouver Island off the west coast of Canada, and I love taking you guys on these walking tours. So if you want to see some of downtown old historic Nanaimo, you've come to the right place. Over the next 35-45 minutes, we'll be walking through. I'll be taking your questions in the live chat, and if you're happy to catch this on the replay, you can definitely ask any questions in the description or the comments down below, and I will answer them for you. As you might have seen when we started off, we are here in the Old Quarter, and I thought no better place to begin than at the old train station. It was built back in 1886. And it's still here today. 1886 it was built by back in the time when we had a guy named William Dunsmuir who lived in Victoria on the southern tip of Vancouver Island. Had talked to Sir John A. Macdonald, at the time the Prime Minister of Canada, and he had agreed to build a train track from down in the Esquimalt by Victoria on the south tip of the island up here to Nanaimo. And the final peg of that was put in way back in 1886. And so this is the original building. It's now a coffee shop called the White Rabbit, and a kitchen and dining room restaurant called the Black Rabbit. I thought that was a great place to begin our tour today with, right off the bat, a little bit of the history of this community right before us. Hello to everybody who's joining us in the chat today. It's always great to have you guys here. I'm always happy to have you. And again, if you're just joining, my name is Dan King, and I live here on Vancouver Island. Today's tour is one I've been looking forward to for a while. I haven't done a tour of the beautiful downtown historic area of Nanaimo in quite some time, and so it's a great time to bring you along for the adventure, for exploring, and a bit of wandering. And I'm throwing in a new spot too this year, and it is down at the market. There are a ton of people down there tonight. It starts at 6 o'clock, it goes to 9 p.m. We'll get into that in just a little bit, but it's a great place to go and explore and wander and see kind of the heart of the city. And that's what I want to do with you today. Nanaimo incorporated as a city back in the 1875. And so it's got a lot of history as far as Canada goes. It's young, but it's on an island in the Pacific Ocean that is, you know, the islands in the west were some of the last places to become incorporated and to be built up, as the First Nations people have lived here obviously for millennia, as we acknowledge that. But here is a beautiful place to call home, and this is what we're going to be looking at now. I'm just going to flip the camera around now that I've walked down the street from the beautiful train station, and show you a little bit of what's in front of me as we enter into our tour proper, the Old Quarter. As I said, we're going to have three parts to this. The Old Quarter here. We'll move down into the Arts District, where we have our night market, and then end up in the beautiful harbor area. Here's a little bit of a picture to give you context if you're familiar with Nanaimo, of where we are, and hello again to everybody in the live chat. Always so great to have you here. We're right here at the corner of Fitzwilliam and Shelby Street. We were just up here at the old train station. Train tracks would have been behind it if we were there. And we're gonna head down Fitzwilliam, all the way down, across the bridge, towards the Bastion, where we're gonna end up. And we'll tell you a little bit more about that as we get here. The Old Quarter in Nanaimo. Nanaimo is actually a First Nations word, and it means a big, strong tribe. And in the 1860s is when the settlement here began. We'll talk a little bit more about some historic buildings, like one of the first hotels that existed in the community, like the one across the street we're looking at. Some of the shops here, some of the first apartments in this area. And for some of you, you'll be excited because the Kittens and Cream, which is a cat lounge, is now located on the corner here of Shelby and Fitzwilliams. Unfortunately, it's closed. Otherwise, we can go in and look at all the kitty cats as we sip our coffee today. Nanaimo was incorporated into a city, as I mentioned, in 1874. Its population is now around 90,000 people. Sometimes referred to as the hub city. And the name refers to the distinctive fan-shaped street pattern that we'll see coming out of the harbor area if you have a chance to look at a map, kind of like the spokes of a wheel. All sorts of eclectic little shops. We'll look in some of the windows. Most of them closed a little bit ago, 5 o'clock. It's 5:30 local time now. Eclectic little shops like this one. This one's called CHÄCSK Home. It's a great place to be able to wander a little bit down here. Coffee shops, little cafes and such. Nanaimo's Old Quarter is part of the original economic core, as I mentioned, of the city, with its buildings in the area dating back to the late 1800s, the early 1900s. And you can see this area here is called Fitzwilliam Gate, named after the individual whose street we are on. And there's a number of these rejuvenated areas that were little alleyways that were mews, if you will, M-E-W-S, that were located between the buildings that have now been renovated and rejuvenated. This one has, of course, a beautiful glass ceiling over it. And as a city that gets a lot of rainfall, that really comes in handy in the winter. Somebody's asking in the comments here if I live in this city. Well, I don't live in Nanaimo proper, but I do live in the area. I live in Parksville, which is just a 20-minute drive north of here. And you can see way down where we're going to end up, if you've got an eagle eye, down at the waterfront, right at the base of this. This area now has over 20 restaurants and 30 shops, professional services, that historical train station we looked at. Let's walk down here, shall we? You can see all sorts of little places. I love the picturesque, beautiful setting here, the colors of the buildings, of course, the street lights, the plants, the lights overhead, and the little shops. We've got some local kids here selling cookies and water. I was actually talking to them earlier. Do you want to wave to everybody? Hello! You can come by and grab some cookies or water here. And they're actually trying to raise money to buy a 3D printer this summer. I was chatting with their mom, and who said it was fine for them to be on the video. She was talking about that, which is really, really exciting. And special welcome on the chat to my friend Benjamin, who lives down in Chile, in Santiago. And he lived with my wife and I for a little while last year. So some of you who are regulars may know him. So this is again where we start at the Fitzwilliams Gate in the Old Quarter. It's a place of wandering, little backwards path, little back area paths, little stores. And this one heads down to the what's called the Heritage Mews. Now, if you don't know what a mews is, maybe in the chat mention what you think it is. I'm going to spoil it right away for you though. A mews is usually a cobblestone kind of alleyway, if it would be a good way to maybe explain it. And it's often got little shops in it, a place to wander. It's usually kind of picturesque, as it were. And this place is called, if I can get it on the camera here, the Heritage Mews. It's all sorts of nice little shops in here that we're going to go explore. And when you're here, you can do exactly the same thing. Just kind of walk, explore, a place to sit down. Above us are some apartments. So this is just a real dense shopping and living community. Like, look, how cute is this in the Old Quarter? Absolutely beautiful. And what I like about this whole area is it's not retailed licensed shops like Starbucks or McDonald's or Tim Hortons or anything like this, some of these name brand places that you'll find. It's all just mom and pop and private entrepreneurial little services and food places that make this community come alive. Such a beautiful place to wander any time of the year, but for sure now. One of my favorite little cupcake places is up the way, and they sell a Nanaimo bar cupcake that Charlene, my wife, and I love to feast on. Little restaurant on the corner. This is a nice restaurant because it's on the way down to the night market, and they have a pizza oven in here that's for wood fire pizza. And if you know me, you know I love wood fire pizza. So a little historic strip down the way. I actually found a new little place just down the way here that I want to show you. Not a lot of interesting shops there, but very interesting, just again, layout to the place. And it's just down and around the corner. So take a quick peek at that. And again, it just captures kind of the character of the area in this. If you've been on this tour before, you will have not seen this little spot, but again, it captures the heart of this old city quarter. Historic buildings, reminiscent of historic buildings. I thought this was kind of a neat spot to show you. It allows us to capture from a distance the old church that's across the street. Now in the wintertime, of course, these trees would be bare and they would give us a much better view of the church building. This is St. Andrew's Church, and it is a historical late Victorian style building constructed back in 1893. It has a beautiful view of the entire town. There's a good shot of it right here, including that tall bell tower to the left. Originally it was a Presbyterian church, then became a United Church in 1952, and it's still used for services today. The buildings that we're coming up to on our left that we're about to pass are actually the first apartment block buildings in the area. They were built in 1910, and now on the ground floor house a cute little bookstore, a barber shop, and I love all the little characters in the window. See if you see any from your younger years, your childhood in there. We've got even some Star Wars figures, some Simpsons, some more contemporary figures. Right up to here, some of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Some Legos. As we go up, we've got some more vintage ones that are here as well. And a refillery. We have that little brush in our kitchen right there, just left of the center of the screen. Well, this whole building in this apartment was one of the first, like I said, apartment blocks. It was called the S&W block, and it was the first purpose-built apartment in Nanaimo. Now, up to that time, renters had lived in hotels and boarding houses or other types of accommodations. But here they had their own cooking and bathroom facilities and such. The buildings had dozens of commercial tenants over the years. Several facelifts until what is here before us now. And this is iconic Old Quarter Nanaimo. Love these colors. Love the layout of the old city quarter. A new addition to downtown Nanaimo this year is Evolve Bicycles. This is actually pilot project that kicked off in downtown Nanaimo back on May 1st, the beginning of spring this year. And it's running this year as a pilot project. Hello everybody in the chat who's saying hello, and glad to see vibrant conversation in the chat always. And if you're watching the replay, feel free to leave comments always below. Questions, happy to answer them. This bike program started with 100 bikes in the downtown area, and we'll see how it goes this summer, but they're being well used. Of course, they come with helmets. A little app you can go onto for these e-bikes and enjoy them. Let's head back onto Fitzwilliam, where we begin our journey, and head down to 5 Corners. Again, on our right, we've got that St. Andrew's United Church. I love this Victorian style and the beautiful windows we're looking at. Of course, the bell tower. Beautiful spot. And again, looks over all the downtown, historical downtown core. I was chatting with someone earlier today whose partner's great-grandfather was one of the original owners of these buildings across the street from us now. And again, have just been facelifted to give that turn of the century look to them. All sorts of little shops and restaurants here. Stone Soup, a day spa, little pizza place on the corner. And you're right, somebody in the chat saying they love how it's built on the slant of the street. And if you'll notice right behind it here, this building has got green ivy along the side of it, which I think is quite cool. So this is 5 Corners. This is moving down towards the Arts District, down Fraser, which is the street right across in front of us down here. Down Fraser was the red light district of Nanaimo. And of course, you'd have a harbor city and lots of people coming in by train or on the boats. And they would find hotels and brothels, gambling venues, very active place from the 1890s to the 1840s. Now, it wasn't until 1875 that the first bridge was built just beyond where we are now, connecting the harbor area to this old quarter where we've just been. And building of that first bridge was really a game changer for the whole area. It allowed people who really at the time were stuck down by the harbor or up in the old quarter where a lot of the residential area was, and they couldn't get across that ravine and back and forth. And so you can imagine that a bridge would really be a game changer for a community in a situation like this. And so we're going to walk across what is not the first iteration, but a newer, obviously, bridge. And we're going to head into the Arts District. And when we go there, we're going to start wandering through the night market, which is about to begin here. Let me flip it around and show you a couple of historical pictures of this bridge area. You can see this is the original, I'm sorry, not the original bridge being built, but the second iteration. This is the construction, demolishing of the old original bridge from the late 1800s. That demolishing happened in 1937, and then the replacement with a new bastion bridge construction that same year. And then if we move down, we'll look at this historic picture. This is actually from the early 70s, and you can see an aerial view now of that same bastion bridge that we're going to walk on now. And the road that it goes over that we're going to be walking on is the road that really connects the south and the north of the island. It was the Highway 19A, which used to be the Island Highway. That was the main thoroughfare for the island. As I mentioned, it went over that ravine, and you'll see how steep and deep this ravine is as I kind of pan over it. From where I am way down, you can see the cars down there. So you can imagine that was a little bit of a challenge for people to get through when they wanted to get down to the economic area that we were just in from the harbor, where many people were working and some living. So this was really a game changer. Down this road, if you keep going on it, is going to bring you right down to the city of Victoria. Now, Robert in the comments in the chat here was saying that they're replacing a bridge near where he is in Canada, and it's causing quite the challenges, and I would imagine that the same thing happened way back in the day here as well. So that goes south to Victoria on the southern tip of Vancouver Island, probably about 2.5 hour drive. And although we won't cross traffic, that will take us up to where I live in Parksville and beyond to Courtenay, Comox and Campbell River and beyond on the north side of the island. Vancouver Island is quite a large island here off in the Pacific off the west coast. A lot of people confuse it with the city of Vancouver and think somehow it's attached. It's very much not. It's a 2-hour ferry ride or an 1.5-hour ferry ride, depending on which one you take. If you'd like to take your car with you, if you'd like to just walk on, there's a fast ferry now from downtown Nanaimo here across, and that one is about 75 minutes. And then finally you can take an airplane or a helicopter, which gets you there in about 15 minutes to Vancouver and the continental United States. So now we're entering the Arts District. Historically, this side of the bridge, some photos from back in the day, which I find always interesting to look at. There's a little pre-1900 picture of the harbor, and there's the bastion on the right-hand side. Looks a bit like a castle, and we'll talk about that a little bit more as we move on. This is the Arts District, and this green building is the first notable indication of that, with the dance studio right in front of us. Beyond that, there is a hostel on the right for those who are visiting the area. A beautiful day out today. It's low to mid 20s Celsius, beautiful blue sky, a little bit of a breeze to keep things cool today. We wander through the shadows here on the side of Bastion Street here in Nanaimo. Now the night market here on Commercial Street, which we're coming up to, this has been running since 2018, so is that 6 years. Runs on Thursday nights till late August, and it sees each year, I think last year was around 75,000 people collectively over the course of the summer came. So it's very busy, very fun, full of people and energy, and a really great magnet and draw to the downtown core here in the city of Nanaimo. It extends all the way down Commercial Street to the Diane Crawl Plaza that we'll get to in just a little bit here. But I do want to walk across and show you a couple of buildings here, just to give you some context historically for Commercial Street. It was created in the late 1800s, and it was a center of commerce and trade outside of the Old Quarter on this side of the ravine. It's going to get very busy here, so we'll see how we do. And although there's obviously been a lot of updates over the years, the general streetscape really has remained very recognizable as it nearly was a century ago. Historically, the street has hosted many community events just like this over the years. And so having the night market here just really makes sense. I love this little view we've got right here with a nod to the 60s and the lighting on the cafe sign. Across the street to the great National Land Building, which was built originally as a Bank of Commerce in the 1914. A very volatile time in history. Again, the modern behind it and the historic in front of it, all filled with a vibrancy of people. And if you've gone on this tour before, it's something like you haven't seen. I'll get a better shot of that historic building as we walk out this way. All sorts of people wandering at this northern tip of Commercial Street. And just turn around back, we've got the modern cafe. Some music, some enjoyment there. The building here that is now the real estate building, the brick building to the right, that was a building that was originally erected back in 1910 as offices and was home for the 8-term city mayor. 8 terms is a long time to be the mayor. Trademark, I think I said 1960s, but it's probably closer to 1950s or 40s even, neon sign. This is home to the Martini Bar, the Nanaimo Bar Martini. If you're ever in the market for a cool, kind of fun drink here on your visit. And again, as I mentioned, the great National Land Building at the end. Just a really iconic building here in the downtown area of Nanaimo. Corner of Church Street and Chapel Street. Right behind it is a church building. It's been there for many decades. All right, let's walk a little bit down the street now. Get a little bit more feel for the market. I won't say much other than highlighting a few places, and then I'll tell you a little bit more about the history in a moment. This runs from 6 till 9, so we've just the beginning of it. Tina in the chat says she'd like to try that Nanaimo Bar Martini. If you're a fan of the old classic cars, there's one for you. If you see something you like, let me know. I'll see if I can take a little bit closer look at it. I love the mix of corporate and artisan and hobbyists like these. Super cute food trucks. Now the building with the peak on it, the white building with the peak on it, right in front of us is actually the Art Museum. The Nanaimo Art Gallery. And then again, I mentioned the hostel, and that's the Painted Turtle Guest House on our right. It's a beautiful night. I love it. Again, some of the old historic shops here. In the 1990s, as the city expanded kind of northwards, this whole area definitely fell into disrepair. But by the mid-2000s, things had taken a turn for the better, with developers being incentivized to take possession of some of the derelict buildings here and revitalize and renovate them. And that gave way to what we see now. In fact, in 2011, so just a few years later, maybe a decade later, this street earned the title of the greatest street in Canada, if you can believe it, awarded by Canadian Institute of Planners. And then in 2018, the Chamber of Commerce got involved in, again, this street market, which brought a lot of people back to this area to discover it in a way that they hadn't seen in this area for decades. I love, again, that mix of the new and the old. There's that old vintage 60s travel agency sign right mixed in with this. The Gasola block on the left, another one of the historic buildings. And Diana Krall Plaza is just before us. Now, with one of the big driving points in getting people down here besides this night market was also the building of a new library, the Diana Krall Plaza, and then the convention center, which is right behind it. We won't see that tonight, but it is right behind it. So many cute little shops. Now this one here, I think, is one actually that I have to come back to and purchase some stuff in a little while for a trip that Charlene and I are taking to a really cool little Airbnb on Main Island in the Southern Gulf Islands later this summer. And although it won't have the coverage to be able to live stream from it, I will do some work there to make kind of a cool little video of it.
I didn't know we were out of smalls.
One of the clothing shops. How many people here are fighting for connectivity? So it's a little bit of a challenge for us, but we're going to push through it. So if you have a few moments where there's no signal, just wait it out and we'll get there. So we look at the commercial night market sign, and we'll take a left in a moment and look at the Diana Krall Plaza.
I don't wanna be. I would rather be sitting here with you under this oak tree, and it's 6 on the street, feeling this lonely. I would rather be.
Now I do want to go down here because down at the corner, I believe, is a little climbing wall, which is kind of a cool. And then we'll make our way back up, assuming we have good connectivity all the way. And then we'll wind our way through by some of my friends at one of the food trucks. And we'll end up at the harbour front, which is a beautiful view tonight as the sun is behind us. So that'll light up that harbour. Absolutely beautiful. If you have questions now, it's a great time to take a moment and add those to the comments below if you're watching the rewatch, or post them in the chat if you'd like to. If you're in the Nanaimo area or Vancouver Island, you've got to add this to your must-do list. Look at this. Right over to the left, you guys. You see this? For the young and young at heart, there is a climbing wall. Come on. That'd be fun to do. That's absolutely amazing. Behind it, Serious Coffee, an iconic spot here. Man, if you're taking photos and screen grabs of this tour, this is a great one. With the commercial street sign and the people climbing, and Serious Coffee there in the background. What a fun little area, I agree. So much chat right now happening. One of the things I haven't mentioned as we spin around and head back up, these historical buildings, you guys, right? One of the things that I haven't mentioned is that if you like what you see, there are a couple of ways you can support the channel, definitely by subscribing, leaving a comment, or sharing this video with other people you think might like it. If you want to be made aware of upcoming tours that I'm doing, probably the best way to do that is to leave a tip on my Buy Me a Coffee site, which is linked in the description below. If somebody wants to share that in the chat, that link, they can. This is the second in a series of 5 summer series tours that I'm going to be doing here on Vancouver Island. Some of them in urban settings like this, some of them out in nature. And I'll be adding the dates for the next ones. Next one is next week, right after this tour, so it should be up by tomorrow morning. From this vantage point, as we're heading back up the street, you can see, thanks Dave and Peggy, you can see a photo piece of Nanaimo's first mayor, Mark Bate, from 1837 to 1927, 90 years old. He was the city mayor for those many terms that I had mentioned earlier in that building. Well, let's head down into the Diana Krall Plaza.
My name is Jared Popma. To my left is Drake Shoemaker on the bass.
With the library to our right.
The Jared and Sarah duo today.
And see if we can find
some
of the food trucks that make this place so fun.
That was called Tired. This next tune is one of mine called Validation.
I like that there are several musical venues as we go along our way. We're getting into an area that's got a lot of food, whether it's the McDonald's Kids Zone to our left. This is not a pedestrian street, although we're in a plaza right now, so this is all pedestrian with the cobbles or the brickwork below us. But that's a regular street that's just shut down every Thursday in the summer for the market. In front of us is the Performing Arts Building. This is the back side of that. The front side, I might show you on another tour. That's another great reason why you want to sign up for that. Buy me a coffee tips, that gets you on my email list. So if you want to get emails about my upcoming tours, just leave me a small tip and it'll get you on that email list on Buy Me a Coffee. That gives you a great view of it. And I don't spam that. It's very few emails, but they're very informative emails and you'll enjoy it. Now we're coming into some of the food trucks. So I want you to keep your eyes out for the food trucks that make your mouth water the most, whether it's ice cream or pizza, whether it's Italian, whether it's street food from Vietnam. You tell me which ones you like the best. All right, look at that sign, pizza, somewhere in front of us. So whether you're in the chat or you're down in the comments if you're watching the rewatch, let me know what you like to see. Is that a Josh?
Hello, guys.
There you go. It's a buddy of mine.
All right. Well, friends, we're going to have an awful lot of fun with this.
We've got a magician to our right.
In fact. You see, I'm very fortunate I get to perform at an awful lot of events throughout, throughout BC.
So lots of
At
entertainment.
every single corporate event that I do. Well, I'm doing a show.
This is my wife Charlene, one of her favorite food trucks, the Dragon Bowls. And this one over here is one of my favorite ones. It's the wood-fired pizzas. Let's pop in and say hi to the chefs maybe in this one. Say hi to my buddy Clinton here, Sophia, and all the gang, making some pizzas. Let's take a little peek in at what she's doing there. Look at those. Hard at work. And we'll head down these colorful steps towards even more. Love this shot. All the color, all the people. This is a great glimpse of really what people are going to see when they come here to the night market. Look at that, you guys. Come on. This is the vibrancy, the color that I love down here. So nice. place to grab a bite. But we're gonna sneak past these and head up the alleyway in front of us. I hope you've been enjoying this tour. We're almost completed, but I don't want you to leave before we see the last bit, and that is the view of the harbor. We'll also see the famous bastion here around the corner in just a moment. I hope you've been enjoying this tour. I love doing these tours with you guys. They're absolutely amazing. If you haven't had a chance to explore my YouTube channel yet, just as we're walking up the alley and getting to our next location, I encourage you to do that after this video is done. Watch a few videos, check them out. My recommendation today is one that I did a few months ago in the past videos, and it is a video about me trying to track down a black bear and not stopping until I do. So if you're interested in my adventure of trying to locate a black bear here on Vancouver Island, you'll want to check that one out. All right, let's cross the road. I'll flip the camera around once again. We'll take a look at the bastion. There it is, me taking my life in my hands, walking down the middle of the street. This is the bastion. Construction began on this in 1853, was finished in 1855. It was constructed as a point of protection from attack for the colonists who were here. And actually is the last remaining Hudson Bay Company wooden bastion. Now, Hudson Bay Company was very involved in the expansion of settlements in Canada in the middle of the 1800s and the end of the beginning of the 1900s. It's been moved several times, and it's been here in this current position since 1891. And it's a heritage attraction museum there now. And it used to be that each day at noon, they would fire the bastion's cannons, although that's something that's been suspended, at least for this year. I mentioned the Performing Arts Center, and you can see that just at the bottom of the hill on the right with the glass windows. We won't walk down that way. It just gives you a little bit of a view. Let's see if I can zoom in a little bit to it. There it is, right down there. Yeah, there it is. Now we'll walk out into another plaza area, and this will take us to our final view of our tour through the Old Quarter, down until Commercial Street in the Arts District, and now out to the waterfront. Again, a beautiful, beautiful night. One of the things we don't often see down here, and you'll see in a moment, is one of the BC ferries that is, I believe, relocated for repairs at the moment. And so we're going to get a glimpse of one of the smaller ferries that goes to one of the small islands. And off in the distance, we're going to see Protection Island, Newcastle Island. But look at this. This feature down at the waterfront looks like the large sail of a ship, and it's actually just a little viewing feature at the top of a set of stairs with a beautiful apartment complex in the background as we look over the edge of the railing and down into the Nanaimo Harbour. Again, just before we're wrapping up here, I want to thank you for being a part of this tour. Please take the opportunity to share it with people who might be interested. I want to get lots of eyeballs on it, especially in those first 24 hours or so. And if you liked what you saw and have the means and want to leave a bit of a tip, buymeacoffee.com. The link again is in the description below this video in YouTube. And I would appreciate it very much. It helps just to support all I'm able to do. Wow, what a beautiful, beautiful night. Protection Island in the distance. To the left, Newcastle Island. Whale watching boats, seaplanes, a hub of activity, and of course the boardwalk promenade below us. That BC ferry there in the distance. so, so nice. Guys, thanks so much for being a part of this tour. This summer series here on of 5 tours here on Vancouver Island is just something that I've been looking forward to for a long time. I hope to see you next week at the next one. I will post a link to it shortly. And if you have a chance to run over to buymeacoffee.com, leave a tip, or look at the posts there, you'll see a listing of all the tours and the dates that they're on. Thanks for all you guys do. Appreciate you so much from here at the beautiful Nanaimo Harbour waterfront. My name's Dan, and I am very happy to have been your host today. Have a great week, you guys. We'll see you next week.